And despite producing some of the most delectable pork products in the world, we still love tucking into a bacon sandwich from a greasy spoon calf. We have a greater wealth of good food in this country today than ever before. When I go to the market at the weekend for my cheeses, vegetables and meat, I'm spoilt for choice by the food we produce, and often come home with a shopping bag almost too heavy to lift. In that respect, I think of myself as being truly attached to the locally produced, the artisan crafted, and the handmade. So how come I also regard a plain chocolate digestive biscuit as one of the finest things this country has to offer? The British have a curiously broad culinary identity. Only the naive would now try to pin us down as a meat and two veg culture. You could argue that ours is a rich and multiculturally exciting cuisine, reflecting a country of diverse tastes and open minds. But equally, it sometimes looks as if we're in a state of total culinary shambles. If we hold up a pot of tea with scones and jam as a national treasure, and I do, then why is it easier to find an Italian cappuccino and an all-American blueberry muffin on most high streets? And how is it that while the French almost called a national strike over any suggestion of using pasteurized milk in their cheeses, the Spanish all but went to war to protect their fishing, and Italy gave its Parmesan cheese internationally protected status, we British only truly went into meltdown over the repackaging of the Kit Kat? Quite rightly, if you ask me. What the French or the Italians may get excited about is very, very different from what most of us in these islands are likely to hold dear. We hold a candle for everything from black pudding to the custard cream, feel more fondness for Murray mince than a decent veal chop, and are rather partial to leaving our most famous food for tourists, whilst we ourselves tuck into something from another culture. This book is my portrait of this curious, often contrary culture, from our adoration of the kipper, the pork scratching and the Rowntree's fruit gum, to our inability to tip properly in restaurants. I feel that while the heroic efforts of our artisan food makers have been well catalogued, though still far from well enough patronised, all too little attention has been paid to the food that most of us either actually eat, or at least carry a certain lingering affection for. Eating for England is simply a personal celebration of the food this nation cherishes, the rituals we observe, the curious and even eccentric thing that is the British and their food. In a stew. The British make an everyday stew with cubes of beef, carrots, parsnips and onions. They pour a jug of water over it, tuck in a bay leaf, and leave it in the oven to do its own thing for 4 hours. What emerges is grey, meltingly tender meat and a gently flavoured broth, comforting and unapologetic in its frugality. It tastes of nothing but itself. There are formal similarities between our national stew and those of Europe and its neighbours. The knee-jerk shopping list of onions and carrots, the introduction of some sort of benevolent liquid, the convenient habit of leaving the simmering ingredients unattended for an hour or more are common to all. The southern French recipe will be made with beef rump, its obligatory onions softened in the bright, fruity oil of the region, and its seasonings of orange peel, mauve garlic, sun-scarred tomatoes, and possibly lavender, inevitably breathe sunshine into its soul. Further north, as you potter down the Rhone Valley during the vendange in October, your day might be punctuated by a paper tablecloth lunch of cubed beef that has simmered since breakfast with shallots, strips of unsmoked bacon, rosemary, and mushrooms in an inky violet-red wine. The Italians, though less likely to use alcohol, will add body to the simplest stew of boneless brisket with the introduction of a whole, cheap tongue and a gelatinous, collagen-rich cotechino sausage. The juices that surround the meat may look more like ours than do the mahogany-hued French or the paprika-stained Spanish versions, but will be silkily limpid in the mouth because of the goodness distilled from both tongue and cotechino. If a British stew is rich at all, it will be because of the early addition of flour to the meat, the thickening qualities of which give the impression of suavity, but add nothing in terms of flavour. And then, just as we Brits abandon our stew to the hungry hordes gathered at the table, the cooks of other nations will add a vital snap of freshness.